This video will serve as an introduction to the distributive property. So go ahead here. The distributive property. So before we can learn about the distributive property, it's important that we understand and know what a expression is. In this case, a numerical expression, So equivalent expressions. So these are numerical expressions. 2 times 6 is 12. 5 plus 7 is 12. 2 parentheses 5 plus 1 is 12. Another green star next to that one because we're really going to get into these parentheses times a number. And then last we have 3 plus 4 plus 5 is 12. Numerical expressions that are equal are called equivalent expressions. Equivalent expressions. The distributive property is a property that's very important in math, and the way I like to explain it is that it connects addition and multiplication. So in class I said if this was addition and this was multiplication, it shows how they're connected. So if we look at this distributive property first, let's look at it here with represented with letters. So we have A parentheses B plus C. And in class, I said a ball, I held up a ball in class and I said the ball will represent A, and then I had someone stand under the letter B, and then I had someone else stand under letter C. So I said we may distribute the ball to person B and person C. Or if you're handing out presents, you might distribute a present to person B and distribute a present to person C. So what does that look like? It looks like this. A times B, because remember the parentheses next to a number or a letter in this case means multiply. So we can say A times B, and we also distribute the A to the C. So if we go next door and write it out, we say A times B plus A times C. And this is called the expanded form. And this is called the factored form. So there's an example with numbers. Let's do an example using, that was an example with letters. Let's do an example with numbers. So let's just pick out a number. Let's pick out a number for A. Let's say 3. Parentheses. Then let's do 2 plus 5. So we're not going to be distributing the A anymore. Now the A will be a 3. So we're going to distribute the 3 to the 2 and distribute the 3 to the 5. Let me go ahead and use blue. So we're going to distribute 3 times 2 and 3 times 5. And we're going to write that next door here. We'll say 3 times 2 plus 3 times 5. So these two are equivalent. These two expressions are equivalent. So let's go further. Let's keep breaking these down. Now, 3 times, over here with the factored form, we might say, let's do what's in the parentheses first. So the parentheses says, take 3 times, well, 2 plus 5 is in the parentheses, so that's 7. So 7 times 3 is 21, Now over on the other side here, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 3 times 5 is 15. So let's write that out. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 15 is 21. So what are we seeing here? We're seeing that we can have a factored form over here. This factor times this factor will give us 21. Over here we have expanded form. So what that means is we've distributed the a to the b and the a to the c. So we have a times b plus a times c. So with numbers, it's 3 as a factor times the other factor of 7. 3 times 7 is 21. Factors. Expanded form, we distribute the 3 to the 2. We say 3 times 2 plus 3 times 5. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 3 times 5 is 15. 6 plus 15 is 21. So last but not least, what the authors of our book like to do is they like to have you connect now what we've started to learn about the distributive property. We're going to connect it to an area model. So how much area is within this rectangle? And they want to see if you can write out 2 different ways to find the area. One way is using the factored form, and the other way is the expanded form. So let's see, let's write out the factored form. So we see 7 times 10 plus 6. So we can write that like this. 7 times 10 plus 6. So 7 is a factor, and that comes from here. And then we have 10 plus 6 will be our other factor. So we can go ahead and solve that one now, but let's not solve that one. Let's distribute first. Let's distribute so we can do the expanded form. So we can say 7 times 10, 7 times 10, and I'm using parentheses, plus, distribute the 7 to the 6, 7 times 6. All right, now we can do some solving of the expressions. So we have an expression and an expression. So let's solve now. 7 times, I'm going to stick with my blue color, so 7 times 10 plus 6 is 16. And over here we have 70 plus 42. 7 times 6 is 42. So our answer will be the same. So 7 times 16, get my blue, we can do 16 times 7. 6 times 7 is 42. 7 plus 4 is 11. So it's 112 on this side using the factored form. And then on this side, we have 70 plus 42, which also equals 112. So it doesn't matter which way you do it. The main thing here is understanding that you've distributed the 7 to make an expanded form or make another expression that's equal to the factored form. So what's the 112 stand for? The 112 just means 112 units of something, and I didn't define the units, but it would take up this whole space. So that is what we did for an introduction to the distributive property.